All right, well, good morning, everyone. The meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman, has anyone signed up for public comment? Thank you very much. Good morning, Ms. Miller.
Good morning, sir.
You're further away today.
Yes, sir.
Well, we'll make it work. On agenda item 3, we have no cases to reconsider. Is that correct?
That's correct. No cases.
On agenda item 4, I'll take that. On agenda item 4, that's tax liability cases, but no cases on docket 18.
That's correct, sir.
No fair housing cases on item 5.
Correct, sir.
Okay. On agenda item 6, though, we have 2 wage claim cases pulled for additional discussion on docket 18.
Yes, sir. The first case is case number 18-061045-6. Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. Texas Secretary of State records show the employing entity has had several name changes. Although the name may have changed, it remains the same entity. The entity name in use with the Texas Secretary of State's office on May 18, 2018 should be named as the employer in this case. As the entity has had a subsequent name change, the employer name should include any subsequent names used by the employer. The claimant performed services for the employer from May 16, 2018 through May 18, 2018, but was only paid through May 15, 2018. The employer has not provided any evidence to dispute the 20.92 hours the claimant reported working during the period. The claimant is entitled to $230.12 in total gross unpaid wages. Modify $230.12 wages owed, change employer name.
The AT decision is supportable as to the amount of wages due, but should be modified as to identify the identity of the employer. Concerning wages, there is evidence to support the AT's finding that the claimant earned $230.12 of wages from the employer that remain unpaid. Concerning the identity of the employer, the name of the law firm employer during the 3 days at issue is, in this case, was the one reflected in the official records from the Secretary of State's office. During those days, the law firm named in the AT decision was not in existence. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision as recommended by staff. The claimant is entitled to $230.12 of additional wages from the law firm that was in existence from May 16 through 18, 2018.
Modify the WCAT, $230.12 in wages owed, change the employer name.
Thank you. The next case is case number 18-061046-4. Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. Texas Secretary of State records show the employing entity has had several name changes. Although the name may have changed, it remains the same entity. The entity name in use with the Texas Secretary of State's office on May 18, 2018 should be named as the employer in this case. As the entity has had subsequent name change, the employer name should include any subsequent names used by the employer. The claimant was a salaried employee earning $48,000 per year. She was not paid for work performed between May 16, 2018 and May 18, 2018. The claimant worked 23.5 hours. Based on her salary, she earned $23.08 per hour. The claimant is entitled to gross unpaid wages of $542.38. Modify $542.38 wages owed, change employer name.
As with the companion case, the AT decision is supportable as to the amount of wages due, but should be modified as to the identity of the employer. Concerning wages, there is evidence to support the AT's finding that this claimant earned $542.38 of wages from the employer that remain unpaid. Concerning the identity of the employer, the name of the law firm employer during the 3 days at issue in this case was the one reflected in the official records from the Secretary of State's office. During those days, the law firm named in the AT decision was not in existence. The name of the law firm employer was confirmed by the claimant's testimony. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision as recommended by staff. The claimant is entitled to $542.38 of additional wages from the law firm that was in existence from May 16th through 18th of 2018.
Modify the WCAT, $542.38 wages owed, change employer name.
Thank you. So those were the only 2 cases pulled for additional discussion. You should have received the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 18.
I'll move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 18.
I second the motion, except for those cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 18.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting, is reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 18.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. Move to agenda item 7, consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 18. Please proceed when you're ready.
Case 2619059, Commissioner Demerson.
The AT decision should be modified to sever the validity of claim issue. As to the job separation, disqualification is appropriate. The claimant quit his position with this employer to care for his grandfather. Such a reason is personal and without work-connected good cause. Furthermore, the evidence does not support that the work was unsuitable. The claimant's pay rate included commissions, but since he only worked for one day, he did not work long enough to see whether his pay would have met his maximum wage demand. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, voluntary leaving, overpayment, sever the validity of claim issue.
The decision should be modified. The claimant was unemployed and receiving unemployment benefits at the time that he accepted this employment. The work in this case was not suitable because it paid well below his maximum wage demand. Under section 207.045 G1 of the Act, the claimant should have been qualified for benefits. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, G1, no overpayment, sever validity of claim.
Modify the 18, no voluntary leave under section 207.045 G1, no overpayment, sever validity of claim.
A short form and send a memo to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's availability for full-time work.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Demerson, I have your short form dissent and we'll send that memo.
Thank you.
Case 2620073, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision is not supportable. The employer is a PEO, but never invoked section 207.045 I of the Act in its response to the notice of initial claim. Per case number 523756-2 in the Appeals Policy and Precedent Manual, a PEO that does not invoke section 207.045 I in its response to the notice of initial claim thereby adopts the client company's reason for the claimant's separation. In this case, the claimant quit because the client company could no longer pay her as a result of its financial difficulties. She had good cause connected with the work to quit when the claimant could not be paid. Reverse the 18, no voluntary leaving chargeback.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant's contradictory statements regarding the job separation place her credibility into question. The most reliable evidence in this case supports that the claimant quit her assignment with the client company without addressing her concerns with the employer or requesting a new assignment. Under these facts, the claimant should be deemed to have quit without work-connected good cause, and we should affirm the AT decision. Voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Ms. Miller, short form dissent.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2628704, Commissioner Demerson.
The AT decision should be reversed. In her initial statements to the commission, the claimant indicated that she quit for personal reasons when she requested to go PRN to watch her children. This is the most credible evidence in this case. Since the claimant quit at the beginning of summer break, her statement matches the employer's journal notes from that time, and the claimant provided this statement before she was denied benefits. As the claimant requested to go PRN for personal reasons, any period of unemployment are attributable to her. To the extent that the claimant argues that her working conditions led to her to resign, her testimony failed to establish that her working conditions were intolerable. Since the most credible evidence establishes that the claimant quit for personal reasons, we should reverse the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant worked as a pediatric home healthcare nurse. She complained to her supervisor regarding the conditions in her home where she was working. The employer, despite having ample opportunity to resolve the issue, failed to do so. The claimant had good cause connected with the work for quitting. Affirm the AT, no voluntary leaving chargeback.
Modify the AT, no misconduct chargeback.
We have not yet achieved a majority vote. Commissioner Alvarez, the chairman's vote just does grant benefits to the claimant, but it's under a different rationale.
I would agree with the chairman.
Thank you, sir.
I'm a short form.
Yes, sir,
Dissent,
Commissioner.
and
Dickens.
I sent a memo to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's availability for full-time work.
Yes, sir, availability, and I have your dissent.
Thank you.
Case 2659-100, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant filed her claim for benefits outside the period that TWC was automatically backdating claims. As the AT noted, the claimant did not file her claim earlier due to being unaware she could do so. Since the latter does not constitute good cause to backdate a claim for benefits, we should affirm the AT decision, deny the request to backdate.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant's hours were reduced. The claimant attempted to contact TWC to see if she could file a claim, but she was unable to get through due to the high call volumes. The claimant waited for guidance to file because she did not want to file a fraudulent claim. The claimant has shown adequate cause to backdate her claim. Reverse the AT valid claim backdate to 3/22/20.
Affirm the AT, backdating denied.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2664-514, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant filed her claim for benefits outside the period that TWC was automatically backdating claims. The claimant stated that she did not know she was supposed to file a claim for UI benefits as soon as she became unemployed. The latter does not constitute good cause for backdating a claim, and we should therefore affirm the AT decision and deny the request to backdate.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was furloughed for 1 week. The claimant attempted to contact TWC for guidance regarding filing her claim, but she was unable to get through to the commission due to high call volume. Because the claimant was unable to obtain assistance in filing her claim, she has shown adequate cause for backdating her claim. Reverse the AT valid claim allowing backdating to 5/31/20.
Affirm the AT, backdating denied.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Chairman, if I may interrupt,
Mhm.
I needed to see if we could go back just for some clarification on a case that I took action on, if that's okay, Chairman.
Mhm.
It will be Ms. Miller. Case is 2628704. And do we all have it? Ms. Miller, so just for clarification on the chair's vote on wages, I'm unsure on what the employer name he intends.
Are you
Um,
returning back to the wage claim cases or UI case?
Let me see. Okay, it is a wage claim cases.
All right.
Can I take a recess real quick, Chairman, to
Certainly.
meet with my attorney? Great. Chairman, I apologize, Commissioner. So Ms. Miller, if we could, Chairman, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to do this, but it was just clarification, Chairman, on the employer on the wage cases that were pulled by my, let me see. The wage cases that were pulled.
Mhm.
Let me see. Okay, no, okay, now I'm getting confused here. I got all these cases. I just wanted some clarification. If you were agreeing with the recommendation by staff on the name changes or on my vote.
On the staff recommendations.
Okay.
How does your vote differ from the staff recommendation?
Well, on one of them, we wanted some clarification on making sure that there was a distinction on the various employer names. I think, as stated in my remarks, the Secretary of State's office had it one way, and there was some changes back and forth on what the named employer was.
Yeah, I think there's two named employers. I think they're the same entity here. So you have the law offices of the individual named, and then there's a three names that I think is also showing up in there, which would show up as an also known as.
Okay.
Could I'm
My-
showing as an also known as, but it could also be a FKA, it could be formerly known as, I suppose. But I don't know when they changed it.
Okay, so for clarification, our vote included later names used by Secretary of State's office. I don't know if that makes any difference or that. Let me take
I'm
it.
showing the majority vote is the name that was shown in the Secretary of State records on the dates in question. And then you had also added that the name should include all subsequent names. You're correct. I don't have a second vote on that.
So that's the only thing I want clarification was
For TWC records
That's correct.
purposes. Yes, sir. It wouldn't be inappropriate to request a supporting vote if you would like one. Basically, what the majority vote is now is that the date in question, the names listed in the Secretary of State's records should be named as the employer. But Commissioner Alvarez, if I'm understanding correctly, wants to also add, for purposes of TWC records, all future or additional names that were used by that entity subsequent to the date in question.
Yes, that's correct.
And from what I can tell, the difference would be what's reflected in TWC records, because the Secretary of State is whatever the Secretary of State is. So, but there's only one vote to include all of those additional names in the TWC record for this entity.
The ones reflected in the record from the Secretary of State, that's where I'm going to stand. I'm solid there.
Okay.
Okay.
So it would be up to you, Commissioner, whether.
Yeah,
these-
no, I think it's the one on record with the Secretary of State.
Okay. Did you want to dissent at all?
Let me meet with council real quick.
Yes, sir.
Again, to the commission, I apologize for the interruption, but for clarification purposes, Chairman, can I ask for a recess, particularly for this agenda item or
Yes.
this particular
Yes,
issue
yes,
before we conclude or
Mhm.
before we can go forward?
yes.
Okay. Chairman, I'm ready to proceed.
Yes.
So this was an interesting case because we didn't want to name the employer in our remarks, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with our original decision, and I will not be dissenting on this, but I'll just move forward on the way we had it, the original.
Yes,
The
sir.
first round.
Thank you.
So thank you, Ms. Miller, for your patience, and commissioners, thank you.
Absolutely.
Of course. This would bring us back to agenda item 7. We're on case number 6, which is case number 2664939. Commissioner Demerson.
Turn on my mic there. The appeal tribunal decision should be reversed. The claimant was discharged for refusal to take a drug test. The employer's drug/alcohol test policy states that a drug alcohol test will be conducted by the employer on the company premises and/or a recognized testing company that normally conducts such testing as a usual business activity. The policy also states that discharge could occur for failure to submit to a requested test. The claimant signed the policy. Nonetheless, the claimant refused to take a company requested drug test at the office. Accordingly, the claimant was in violation of the employer's policy, which constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant has consistently testified that he did not refuse to take a drug test in the clinic. The operations manager asked the claimant to take an at-home drug test. The claimant, as a field supervisor, was well aware that the request did not comply with the employer's policies and procedures, and he initially refused to take this informal test. The claimant had taken multiple tests during his 4.5 years working with the employer. The employer's testimony was inconsistent with prior statements. The dates of events changed, and the operations manager completely forgot that he initially told TWC that the claimant admitted to a drug test. The claimant's consistent sworn testimony carried greater weight. The evidence is insufficient to establish misconduct. Affirm the 18, no misconduct chargeback.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Demerson.
Case 2682181, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant separated from the employer on March 15, 2020, when the employer closed the business and the claimant was laid off. The claimant was already separated from her job for reasons other than misconduct when she was offered to return to the employer in July 2020. It is unclear if that offer occurred before or after the claimant filed her claim. As such, a memo should be sent to investigate the timing of that offer and, if applicable, whether the claimant's refusal was in line with the June 16, 2020 Commission guidance related to suitable work refusal. Reverse, no misconduct, no overpayment.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant stopped working when the employer closed temporarily due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Since the claimant's separation was a result of the disaster, she should be qualified for benefits. However, based on the claimant's testimony regarding childcare needs and her underlying medical condition, a memo should be sent to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's ability and availability for work. We should reverse the AT decision, no misconduct, disaster, no overpayment, memo to UIA and OS to investigate the claimant's ability and availability for full-time work.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, disaster, no overpayment.
We have a majority vote to reverse the AT, no misconduct, no overpayment, disaster. And Commissioner Alvarez, was your memo for a suitable work investigation?
The memo was to investigate the timing of that offer and if it was applicable to the claimant's refusal in line with the June 16, 2020.
Suitable work.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. And then I have a memo availability and ability for you.
Correct. For
Commissioner
full-time
Demerson.
work, that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Case 2697927, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant received a lump sum severance payment on September 29, 2020, and no evidence was presented to establish the payment was to cover any specific period. As such, the claimant should only be disqualified for the week she received the payment. The claimant's ineligibility should be from September 27, 2020 through October 3rd, 2020. Since the claimant received no benefits during this period, there is no overpayment. Modify the AT severance disqualification from September 27, 2020 through October 3rd, 2020, no overpayment.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant received severance pay that did not meet any of the non-disqualifying circumstances of 207.049B of the Act. However, since neither party clearly indicated what period of time the severance was intended to cover, the claimant should only be disqualified from benefits for the week that she received the severance payment. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, severance disqualification from September 27, 2020 through October 3rd, 2020. Recalculate overpayment, and then a memo to UIA and OS regarding the claimant's benefit payment.
Could you clarify the purpose of the memo, please?
The claimant's benefit payment.
And whether they receive benefits?
Yes, let me counsel with Mario real quick. And it's in line with staff recommendation. I think that's what Mario was going to express.
My apologies, that
That's okay.
memo has already been sent, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, sir, that memo's already been sent.
Told me you would pick up on that, but benefits payment. So, okay.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Modify the AT severance disqualification from September 27, 2020 through October 3rd, 2020, recalculate the overpayment.
It looks like a unanimous decision. Yes, sir.
Case 2704641, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be reversed. The claimant was terminated from his job due to inappropriate conduct. After an investigation, the employer stated that it found the claimant had been sexually harassing some of his employees. In addition, the employer also revealed that one of the employees felt she had to flirt back and sleep with the claimant to keep her job and another employee's job. Since the employer stated that the claimant was the supervisor of both employees, his conduct was highly inappropriate and not in the employer's best interest. And the claimant also admitted that nude photos of an employee on his phone were seen by another person while he was scrolling through text messages. In sum, the claimant's position as a supervisor meant that he was held to a higher standard of conduct, and his actions both failed to meet that standard and constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The decision is supportable. The claimant in the only part is the only party to provide firsthand testimony, and he testified that relationships with subordinates were consensual. The employer's policy did not prohibit relationships with subordinates. The employer has failed to provide sufficient evidence to establish misconduct. Affirm the AT, no misconduct chargeback.
Reverse the AT misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2715067, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The employer let the claimant go because the claimant signed a non-compete agreement with a former employer that allegedly prevented the claimant from working for the named employer. The non-compete agreement that the claimant signed prevents her from working in her area of experience for 2 years and in 12 states. It is overly broad and unlikely to be enforced to Texas courts where such agreements are scrutinized closely, especially with regards to the duration and the geographic region covered by the non-compete. The agreement effectively precluded the claimant from any ability to earn a living, and the commission should not be encouraged such outcomes by endorsing such agreements. The claimant's employment covered by a prior non-compete agreement likely enforceable by Texas courts does not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Reverse AT, no misconduct, no overpayment.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged after the employer discovered she had a non-compete agreement with her former employer. While the claimant contends that she forgot she had signed such an agreement, it was the claimant's responsibility to know what documents she signed and to report accurate information to the named employer when asked. Since the claimant failed to do so, her actions constituted the equivalent of work-connected misconduct. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, misconduct, overpayment of $5,210.
Affirm the AT, misconduct, overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2721799, Commissioner Dimerson.
And on this one, I'm going to recuse myself from this particular case.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was sent a letter, but it did not offer the claimant reasonable assurance. The letter explicitly states that reasonable assurance does not apply during disasters. At the time that the letter was sent and all through the summer, Texas was in the midst of a disaster and public health emergency. There was no reason to believe that a claimant had reasonable assurance of continued work based on the letter and the circumstances. Reverse AT, no reasonable assurance, no overpayment.
Affirm the AT, claimant had reasonable assurance from May 24th, 2020 through August 22nd, 2020, overpayment.
All right, we have a split decision because the two votes don't match. There's no majority vote. The underlying decision will remain in full force and effect.
Case 2728498, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant was absent from work because she was quarantining while she experienced symptoms of COVID-19. The claimant's uncontradicted testimony was that she called the employer's absence line and reported her absences per the employer's policy. The claimant was absent from work for medically verified reasons and gave proper notice of her absences under the employer's policy. The employer did not appear in the hearing, and based on the preponderance of the available evidence, the claimant was discharged for reasons that did not constitute misconduct. Reverse AT, no misconduct.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. First, I agree that we need to correct the erroneous language in the AT decision. As to the job separation, because the claimant did not respond to the employer's request for contact and information, and the employer's email notified the claimant that failure to respond would result in her separation, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, misconduct, correct the language in the AT decision.
Modify the AT, misconduct, correct language in AT decision.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2731419, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant's job entails interacting with a high number of individuals who potentially could expose the claimant to COVID-19. The claimant was advised by the doctor that because of his health condition, he is at high risk of severe illness if he gets COVID-19. He therefore resigned. The claimant resigned as a result of a medically verified health condition, and he should not be disqualified from benefits. Reverse AT, no voluntary leaving due to MBI, and bill the reimbursing employer.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant did not provide medical documentation which advised him to quit. Furthermore, while the claimant could have asked for FMLA or some other leave in order to protect his job, the claimant admitted in his fact-finding statements that he chose not to do so because this would be unpaid. Finally, despite the claimant's assertion that he caught COVID at work, the claimant admitted in his appeal to the commission that it is impossible to determine where he contracted COVID-19. Thus, because the claimant did not establish that it was medically necessary for him to quit, the claimant's quitting was under disqualifying reasons. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed, plus memo regarding the claimant's PUA eligibility.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed, memo to determine PUA eligibility, and address the erroneous determination dated November 27th, 2020.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez, and they'll send memos for both of those purposes.
Case 2750890, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. I agree that the employer did not establish a good cause for its non-appearance. However, I disagree with the chargeback ruling. The evidence available to the AT clearly established that the job separation occurred when the claimant quit for another job. This constitutes a personal reason for quitting. Since the claimant quit without work-connected good cause, the employer's account should not be charged. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision. The employer did not have good cause for its non-appearance, no chargeback.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The employer did not have good cause for his non-appearance at the AT1 hearing because the employer's representative simply mixed up the date of hearing. On the merits, based on the employer's prior statements, the claimant was separated from the employer because work was slow. The claimant was obviously involuntarily separated and would not have been disqualified if this had been in his last separation before his claim. Affirm the AT, no employer good cause for the non-appearance at AT1, charge the employer's account.
Modify the AT, employer did not establish good cause for AT1, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case 2758846, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant was discharged for failing to report to work on December 24th, 2020. The claimant had previously requested and had been approved to take the time off if she found a replacement. The claimant found a replacement and planned to be off. On December 23rd, 2020, the employer informed the claimant that the replacement was not going to come in. The claimant was in the process of leaving to visit her ill grandmother when she was informed of the late change. Similar to appeal number 2386-CA-77, as the claimant had previously permitted to take the day off, only to have the decision reversed with little notice, the claimant's absence did not constitute misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant failed to show up to work and failed to find coverage for her shift as instructed. While the claimant stated that the employer had found someone to cover her shift, text messages and evidence established that the claimant was informed that her coverage was not in place. Thus, because the claimant was aware that conditions for her approved time off had not been met, by failing to show up to work, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment. We should affirm the AT decision, misconduct.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Dimerson.
Case 2764493, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. First, I agree that the claimant's workers' comp benefits are not disqualifying. As to the job separation, the employer's policy required that the claimant to report for reassignment within 24 hours. However, documents and evidence, including the claimant's phone records, established that the claimant did not call the employer until several days after the end of his assignment. Furthermore, the employer's policy has very clear instructions that employees are required to speak to a staffing counselor to report for further work, and that speaking to anyone else does not constitute a call-in for purposes of availability. Because the claimant waited several days before calling in for reassignment, and the record has not established that he spoke to a staffing counselor on the day his assignment ended, the claimant is considered to have quit without good cause connected with the work. We should modify the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response, no workers' comp disqualification. In the alternative, because the issue of whether the claimant spoke to a staffing counselor or as required by policy was not fully developed, we could rehear for clarification on this issue.
The AT decision should be affirmed. On the workers' compensation issue, the claimant should not be disqualified since the workers' compensation benefits paid him were impairment benefits. The separation issue, the employer is a temporary help firm, and the claimant reported to the employer for reassignment on the same day that the client company let him go from his last assignment. Since the claimant was not offered further work, he was involuntarily separated for reasons that were not misconduct. Affirm the AT, workers' compensation eligible, no misconduct, chargeback.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback. Claimant did not receive disqualifying workers' compensation.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Dimerson.
Case 2767853, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant is the only party to provide firsthand testimony. The employer was housing COVID-19 positive individuals, and he did not disclose this information to the staff. Staff members tested positive for the virus. As a result, the claimant informed the employer she needed a COVID-19 test and left work to get tested. She got tested as soon as the appointment was available. The claimant remained in contact with her supervisor during her quarantine and requested to return to work as soon as she received her negative test results. When she requested to return, the employer informed her that she was no longer needed. as the claimant had come into contact with COVID-19 positive individuals. Her decision to quarantine and get tested was in keeping with CDC guidelines. The claimant's separation was due to the pandemic. Thus, the claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account protected from charge. Reverse AT, no misconduct, no chargeback.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant's testimony that she kept in touch with her supervisor each day of her absence while awaiting the result of her COVID test is contradicted by her fact-finding statement. The claimant told the claims examiner that she did not contact her employer during the 4 days she placed herself in quarantine. This prior statement was made closer in time to the job separation and prior to the claimant's disqualification. As such, this statement is more credible and should be given greater weight than the claimant's testimony. Thus, because the claimant was absent without notice to the employer for several days, the claimant is considered to have quit her job without good cause connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez. And that was the last pulled unemployment insurance case under this agenda item. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 18 already.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 18.
I second the motion except for those cases in which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 18.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 18.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda items 3 through 7. Let's pause for a few moments to reset for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Sherry, guys.
This is agenda item 8, discussion consideration possible action regarding funding for the Information Technology Registered Apprenticeship Program. Good morning.
I feel like it would be a commission meeting without seeing audio.
It's a little, it's a little fuzzy. Can you turn
Okay.
the volume up?
So
Just
now we know
got
it's not the
better.
audio.
Carrie, you're on mute. You're on mute.
That's it. That's it. Wanted to make sure that I could be heard, and wanted to also let you know how glad I am to be back here. Good to see all of you.
Glad to have you back.
So good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioners Alvarez and Commissioner Demerson and Mr. Sarna. For the record, Carrie Ballast, Workforce Development Division. On November 10th, 2020, the Texas Workforce Commission's three-member commission approved the use of $3 million in WIOA statewide reserve funds for the Information Technology Expansion Program. Following the commission approval, technical assistant discussions with our designated federal project officer led apprenticeship staff to find innovations and opportunities in its implementation of the federal state apprenticeship expansion grant, particularly in achieving the grant's goals and in strengthening the system alignment. So today, staff seeks direction in returning $1.5 million to the WIOA statewide reserve and replacing that $1.5 million with state apprenticeship expansion grant funds. If approved, the registered apprenticeship program that you approved earlier will maintain its original funding level of $3 million. $1.5 million will be from WIOA statewide reserve, and the other $1.5 million will be from the SAE grant. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve returning $1.5 million to the WIOA State Reserve and replacing that $1.5 million with SAE, or better known as State Apprenticeship Expansion Grant funds, as described by staff, therefore, thereby maintaining the original funding level for the Information Technology Registered Apprenticeship Program of $3 million as follows: $1.5 million in WIOA State Reserve, $1.5 million SAE grant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you. It's
Thank
good to see
you.
you.
Good to see you.
It's
Thank
good to
you.
hear you.
Oh, glad to.
Good to hear you.
Glad to be here and glad to be heard. Thank you.
Nothing on agenda item 9. I'm not showing anything. Agenda item 10, this discussion of serious possible action regarding guidance on resource utilization and implementation of services, strategies, target disaster relief efforts, and public health emergencies.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Reagan Miller with the Child Care and Early Learning Division. This morning, I'd like to present some information about the approximately $1.1 billion in federal child care funds that TWC was awarded through the December Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, or CRSA, as we're calling it to shorten the name. You previously approved a planned use of funds report, which was submitted to the Administration for Children and Families, Office of Child Care in late February. That report provided our initial considerations about how Texas might invest these one-time funds. Today, we're bringing forward our first initiatives for CRSA funding consideration. Issue 1 in the discussion paper lays out all of the funds and identifies some initial estimates for how much money TWC might invest for each of these strategies. Because of the large influx of funding, it will take us some time to get project proposals developed for all of the initiatives under consideration. Today, we're recommending that our first prioritization on spending these funds focus on the implementation of child care relief funds, which will be provided to approximately 14,000 regulated child care providers. We're asking for approval to budget $775 million towards this effort. And we're also asking for approval to budget $15 million for technical assistance business coaches that all providers will have access to. The second issue provides additional detail about the proposed child care relief funding. We have outlined the proposed methodology for calculating the amounts that providers will receive, which is based on a provider size, type, and the cost of care in their area. The methodology would provide for an enhanced amount for Texas Rising Star quality rated providers, as well as for quality programs who have nationally recognized accreditation. And providers within childcare deserts would also receive an enhanced amount. We've included in attachment 1 example grant amounts for each of the 28 workforce areas. And with your approval, we're aiming to roll out funding in an online application system on June 1st. Providers would not need to submit an application to us. We'll simplify this by sending information out to them. And the last issue provides detail about investing funding to secure technical assistance business coaches. These entities will help providers who have questions about the child care relief funding and provide other business supports. And we will also measure and evaluate the impact that these efforts have had on child care providers. And as I conclude, I want to express my appreciation to the TW team that has been working to develop the infrastructure that's necessary for providers to apply for these relief grants and to get legal documents, contracts issued to 14,000 entities. It's just been a tremendous effort. We've had staff from IT, business ops, finance, OGC, RID, workforce, and childcare all pitching in to try to get this done. And we couldn't have done it without that incredible team effort. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
What's your question?
Chairman, I'd also like to acknowledge the great work that Reagan and her team have displayed during this COVID period. I want to thank you, Reagan, for inviting the commissioners to participate and listen to stakeholders regarding childcare. And I just want you to know that we're very pleased with the work that you have done to provide great quality childcare throughout for all these infants, and thank you for that. And so I just wanted to acknowledge you and your team's great work during this difficult time and the quality of childcare you provide to our infants. So thank you.
Chairman, Commissioner Alvarez, this is a very important work. It's a big piece of the puzzle as we try to get employees back to work. And so appreciate the work that you guys are doing, Reagan. And I too appreciate the input of the stakeholders during the well-run public hearing that you held about a week or two ago. It was a lot of input, a lot of good conversation taking place. And I'm glad to see that we're listening to the stakeholders and we're putting this amazing work into action. So thanks to you and the team and the whole TWC team for what you guys are doing.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the prioritization of CRRSA projects, use $775 million for childcare relief funding, and use $15 million for technical assistance, business coaches, and to elevate the impact of these efforts and as presented by staff.
Rowley, second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you. This discussion, consideration, possible action regarding approval of local workforce development board nominees.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Shanta Williams with the Workforce Development Division. And before you for consideration, we have Workforce Board nominations for 3 areas. Staff recommends approval for Workforce Solutions, Concho Valley, Gulf Coast, and Coastal Bend. That concludes my request, and I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Comments or question?
None here, Chairman.
None.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve board nominees for Concho Valley, Gulf Coast, and the Coastal Bend.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you. Nothing on agenda item 12, or yes?
The executive director.
Hmm?
We have nothing on.
Okay, great. Legislative report. We'll take you up on that. I was getting ready to talk about agenda item 12, Mr. Cerna, and Michael Britt like sprung into action back there. And it was contradictory to my notes, but he was springing into action on this one.
Kind of a slow spring.
Well, no, it was impressive. It was, he was in the ready position.
Might say it was turtle.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Michael Britt, Governmental Relations. We are now about 1 month away from the conclusion of the 87th Texas Legislature regular session. They will conclude on Memorial Day, Monday, March 31st. Last week was actually a busy week for the legislature. First and foremost, Chairman Daniel and Commissioner Demerson were confirmed by the Texas Senate. So congratulations, gentlemen. Also last week, both the Texas House and Senate established a conference committee for Senate Bill 1, which is the General Appropriations Act. And that conference committee began its work last Thursday. The Texas Senate also passed House Bill 7 by Representative Button, which relates to the replenishment ratio used to determine an employer's unemployment compensation tax rate. And that bill will now go to the governor for his action. Also, the Texas House passed House Bill 1153 by Representative Bowe last Monday, and this is TWC's legislative proposal related to Fair Housing Act amendments. The bill now goes to the Senate for their consideration. And the Senate companion to that bill, Senate Bill 1264, has already been reported favorably from the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Economic Development. Moving to this week, on Wednesday, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services will consider House Bill 1792 by Representative Button, which is TWC's legislative proposal related to the TRS assessor and evaluator functions. And on Thursday, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Economic Development will be considering House Bill 1799, also by Representative Button, which is TWC's legislative proposal related to reporting requirements for the apprenticeship program. This concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have.
Comments or questions?
None here.
Do you happen to recall, Michael, do you happen to recall what the vote was on Commissioner Demerson's confirmation?
It was close, sir. I believe it was unanimous,
Yeah, it's like. it
as was yours, sir.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I think our vote, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, compared to Commissioner Alvarez's vote was a little different from what I've heard. So
Remember, I'm not the only one there. They vote on many folks at the time, so I know what you're trying to get at. So we had 3 people that didn't vote, all right, but
I just,
there were other folks.
having gone through the process, I will tell you, it is amazing how many nominees the Senate conducts a hearing on, does all the appropriate work on, and then the Senate as a body passes out in the course of the session. It is an impressive number of people the governor nominates to the various boards and commissions and other jobs in state government, and the ability for the Senate to do that in the 4 months roughly that they're able to do that while conducting the rest of the business. It's a large number of people, and there's a big team that makes sure all that happens so that the people of Texas can have their government in place. It was a very well-run process on all accounts, and I'm privileged to be a part of it.
Commissioner Demerson, you made the varsity team.
I mean, varsity. Thank you for the swearing in. So,
Anything else, Mr. Cerna, in your executive director's report?
I think we have one item in the executive director's report to discuss foster youth.
Also, you, okay, I'll take that then. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Alvarez, as you know, I've been working in the foster care space for quite some time. Commissioner Alvarez introduced me to that. I've been known about foster care for quite some time. We were in a meeting years ago where it kind of sparked my interest when we were talking about the numbers not moving, and wanted to take it up on in this position, making sure that we're providing recognition to employers that are hiring, transitioning foster youth and the like. At the agency, Jen Troke and her team takes on the foster care space. And this month is actually Foster Care Month. And so we're going to kick that off here. I'll be participating in a number of events, go to El Paso in a couple of days, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to kick off their event as well. And so Governor Abbott has provided us with a proclamation. And I want to read that into the record and then ask Jen to come up to make some remarks as well. We have a number of folks that are in the audience. Gay from the Department of Family and Protective Services that's joining us today. And then Hunter Beaton with Day One Bags has joined us as well. And then Erica with Together We Rise is back there as well. Those are the 3 that I know. Jen will pick up the other ones that I may have forgotten in that step. But I want to read the proclamation from Governor Abbott. Very important work. Ms. Abbott has been at the forefront of the efforts here with us from day one. And we're very proud of the work that we've been able to do with her office as well. But it says, we cherish our young Texans and understand the importance of providing them with the care, guidance, and support they need to grow into healthy, successful adults. Our children represent the hard work of our past and the promise of our future, and ensuring they reach their full potential is one of the most important causes we can support. This is especially true for young Texans in foster care who are among our state's most vulnerable children. We must continue working to ensure these children have the care and support they need to continue chasing their dreams. When intervention and separation are unavoidable in family units, many different entities step in to provide safe, nurturing environments to young Texans in need, including dedicated individuals, families, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, and faith-based and community organizations. While we have always been committed to the health and unification of families and the futures of these young Texans, in recent years, we have also committed to reforming our state's foster care system in order to better protect children and support families. In 2017, I was proud to sign several bills into law that allowed Child Protective Services to place more children with relatives, increase capacity of foster homes by streamlining regulations, and move towards a community-based care system. First Lady Cecilia Abbott has also partnered with DFPS and launched the Network of Nurture, a community of families, friends, local leaders, nonprofit organizations, businesses, faith leaders, and others willing to open their hearts or their homes to the children in the state's child welfare system. In order to continue to support the children in our state's foster care system, the month of May is dedicated to raising awareness of high-quality foster care in Texas and highlighting the compassion of those who open their homes and give their efforts to children in need. As we continue to provide caregivers, parents, and children with the resources and services they need to thrive, these reforms and community-based networks will create lasting change in our foster care system and in the lives of many young Texans. At this time, I encourage all Texans to learn more about foster care and how they may be able to help young Texans in need and to join in celebrating the dedicated men and women of our foster care system who work tirelessly to improve the lives of many children throughout our state. By placing a spotlight on this system and the people who support it, we can create a better and brighter future for our next generation of leaders, and in turn, the Lone Star State. Therefore, I, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, do hereby proclaim May 2021 to be Foster Care Awareness Month in Texas and urge the appropriate recognition whereof. In official recognition whereof, I hereby fix my signature the 28th day of April, 2021. Greg Abbott, Governor of the great state of Texas. And so this is a proclamation that we'll receive from the governor's office, and we'll be handing that out to DFPS and the others. And so just a round of applause and thank you for Governor Abbott for that work. Pastor Jen.
Good morning. It's so wonderful to see you all. And Gabe, Pat, I can't provide these remarks without our partners from the Department of Family and Protective Services. So I'm so glad that they're here. Commissioner, thank you. This is such a big, important day for us. All of you have worked tirelessly on behalf of foster youth, and your support of those foster youth initiatives here at TWC and with DFPS really energizes our work. And so the work of the local foster youth transition centers, all of our workforce boards and local workforce solutions offices is better because of you all and your support. So thank you so much for that. We're also extremely grateful to the governor, Governor Greg Abbott. Thank you so much for his leadership in this space, and also his wife, First Lady Cecilia Abbott, who was an extremely important speaker at our recent foster youth conference. And she has been such a passionate advocate for a long time. So we're really thrilled to see this Foster Care Awareness Month. We embrace it. We have a whole slate of activities prepared throughout the month. We have training activities between the Texas Workforce Commission and DFPS. We have a vocational rehabilitation webinar that we're looking forward to highlight their great work for our foster youth and how they can provide access those services. And really, I want to recognize the team. You got Gay. If our special guest could stand up, that would be fabulous. From Together We Rise, we have Erica Arambula. Together We Rise has been an invaluable partner to us. They do amazing work for foster youth, providing bags and other things to young people and transportation when they most need it. So thank you, Erica, for being here. Hunter Beaton is also here. He's with Day One Bags. Hunter is a college student. I don't want to embarrass you, Hunter, but he is a very industrious young man. He has his own company. He sent bags and backpacks to every single transition center, 18 of them across the state. So I want to give him a special round of applause too for his leadership in this space. Nick, where are you? Nick and Nick Winowski from LifeWorks. Nick has also been working in this space for a long time. They hosted us at an event just prior to the pandemic. So glad to see Nick here as well. So a round of applause for all of our special guests today. Thank you all for joining. And I really just want to encourage anybody who's listening today to get involved. So if you're not already involved in working with foster youth, we encourage you to get on board. If you need help, you can contact me or any one of my great team members, James Golson, Jen Lee, Ben Holquist. Y'all stand up too. Want to give y'all a round of applause. And you can find all that information on our website just by searching for foster care programs. So with that, I want to give Gay an opportunity just to say thank you to Gay. We have so many amazing plans in the pipeline that aren't quite ready to announce, but they're coming soon. So Gay, please.
Well, good morning. My name is Gay Vopat. I'm in a newly created position at DFPS. I'm the Youth Employment Program Specialist. On behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, we want to thank you all for all your support, all the services that you provide. We really cherish the relationship and the partnership that we have with TWC that we've had for many, many years. All the services and supports that you're providing, they're really going to help our young people, youth and young adults successfully move on to their adulthood. As Jen said, we have a lot of new projects. I'm excited because in my position before I was the lead for all the transitional living services, but now I get to focus on this topic and helping youth be successful and improve their outcomes. So again, I thank you so much.
And with that, sir, we turn it back to you. Thank
Good-
you so
good-
much
good.
for your
Thank you
leadership.
guys. And Chairman, thank you for allowing the opportunity, Commissioner and Ed as well. Gabe, make sure you let Commissioner Masters know that we appreciate the work that she's doing over there, and we look forward to working with her even more so. And then Jen pointed out Nick as well. First Lady Abbott kicked off that event about 2 years ago or so, 2 or 3 at LifeWorks, and we appreciate you being here. And then Cassandra Madrano on my team is heading up the efforts under our office dealing with the foster youth as we recognize employers that are making a difference in that space by hiring these transitioning foster youth. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
And I have nothing else to report.
Any other order of business come before the commission?
Chairman, if I may just add to the last presentation that was done, I want to thank you, Jen, for the great work and your passion for serving those individuals that are in foster care, and your commitment, Commissioner Demerson, for your work. I was excited when I heard last week that our Gulf Coast Building Trades will be meeting with the Transitional Center there in Houston to talk about registered apprenticeship programs. So thank you for that, and for the introduction and fully utilizing our support services and, doing that blended services, I should say. So thank you for that.
Any other order of business?
None here, Chairman.
None here.
Cisco's attendance would suggest to me that there will be photos following this session, which is a good thing. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I second that motion.
Been moved second to adjourn. We're adjourned. We're going to take pictures with Cisco, and then 180 seconds after that, we're going to reconvene for a work session on awards for the annual meeting. So let's take all the pictures we want to take, but then we got to come back and got a little more work to do.
Here's this. Do we want the mask on? Might be.
Because you don't want to laminate. If you haven't been boosted. Nah, all right. Get it.
I was standing right there and Jen was trying to fix her, so the head was right. Did you see? Did you turn it? I feel it, my head is stiff. I want you to know that.
I'll get you one of those.
That's what I told him. I said, I'm gonna be like, oh, buddy, I carry it in the car before I go. I'm serious. You are.
On film.
Yeah. Did you get my? I was like this, I'm like, "Jen, I'm breathing." I'm breathing. That was funny. Hey Reagan, how late did you go? I heard the last person. Yes. That was awesome.
Yeah, she had done that.
Really? I'm glad.
All right, the work session is called to order. We're here for discussion of today's Prospection regarding workforce award categories and monetary amounts for 2021 and subsequent years. I think there's a couple ways we could tackle this. This is what I'm going to suggest and see if you're in agreement. So we need to really settle on something for this 2021 meeting, which is coming up in November. I think I discussed briefly my intent in the last commission meeting. We discussed this, that, I really think this needs to be kind of a separate case, perhaps even a special set of awards related possibly to the pandemic. There's other items I think we can discuss here. And so I want to set 2021 aside as its own thing. And then we're going to need to deal with 2022 because I honestly, I always felt like that we don't get enough lead time on these awards. We need to be a full year and a half out from the next annual meeting when we set these, so that there's some way that all the folks that are working toward these awards have, some full amount of time to contemplate those and do that. So if there's a better way to tackle it, this would be the time to lay that out. But I think if we start with 2021, get that kind of lined out, how we think that might work best, and get that information moving with staff. And then once we do that, I think we should come back around and give some thought to 2022 and see how that moves out. But that's how I think it probably breaks down best. But if there's another idea, let's discuss that right now.
I'm okay with that, Chairman.
I'm in line. I
Making
think
a
it makes
distinction
sense.
between the two. Yeah.
All right, let's tackle 2021 first. We saw staff's original package of recommendations. I've been fairly clear. I just think we're too far into the year to really come at it like that. I've talked a little bit about streamlining that. I have an outline here of what I would want to see. I'm sure you have the same. Let's have a little bit of discussion and then try to understand kind of what we really would all like to see out of this. And today, we really need to get that kind of put together in a comprehensive kind of package so staff can immediately start to work on that. So I probably do have some other comments, but Commissioner Alvarez, I'd turn it over to you to hear your comments on this issue.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Daniel and Commissioner Demerson, I have a proposal for this year's awards. Given the significant changes brought on by the pandemic, many boards concentrated on tackling issues outside of the activities generally compared in determining award winners. Complex economic, demographic, and geographic factors each board faced likely resulting in activities that would be difficult to compare against one another. I heard from boards that have expanded their broadband to provide free internet from workforce parking lots, purchase mobile hotspots, increase childcare for essential workers, use mobile units to bring workforce assistance to clients, and develop online job fairs to connect employers with the labor force. These are just a few initiatives of which I was informed, but every board has dealt with unique challenges in their own way and have their own story to tell. I would like to see everyone's story recognized. With that said, we should use this opportunity to celebrate and highlight the various work of boards and COVID-19 skills grantees. The conference should provide a platform for everyone to share their stories with their peers and to be recognized for the work that they have undertaken. Instead of attempting to provide monetary prizes, especially at a time when we are still recovering, I would prefer to see the money that we might otherwise be used on awards used instead towards possible COVID skills grants, similar to what we did last year. Concludes my remarks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I do think this represents an opportunity for us to rethink, reimagine awards along those lines. So I'm interested in just the conversation, even to the point of this year, if it's, do we do awards? We're in 2021 right now. You mentioned a year and a half to do these things right. And so but let's give that some thought. And if there are other ways to do some things, I think we give ourselves that time to discuss it and to see if there's something to that. 2022, we'll get to that one. 2021, Commissioner Alvarez, you just mentioned it. There's going to be differences all across the space from that standpoint. And so further fleshing out what our thoughts are. I think when we, hearing your initial comments about maybe rethinking the awards and maybe concentrating on pandemic type of initiatives, I thought that was a good thing for us to look to. And so let's kind of continue that conversation to see if we land on anything there. And if we land to the point where maybe we don't do awards like we've done in the past, but we do something smaller, get the thoughts percolating around that is something that I think we should do.
So the idea was not to present awards, kind of an high level, and just let the boards at the conference recognize or share with everyone some of the things they did during the pandemic. And so it was to eliminate the awards this year, possibly use the money as we did last year. As I said, let the skills grant, let's, the money, let's deobligate it and maybe give it to the boards in other respect, but to identify specific and let the boards, actually just share with us some of the things they did during the pandemic was what I had in mind.
Yeah. And
Just share
again,
the story.
Again, I think a conversation, because I wasn't totally talking about eliminating all the awards thing. I think, Chairman, if you have some pandemic specific awards, I'd be curious to hear those. And
Well, to be honest with you, I do, because I was thinking of it in terms of the best way to recognize boards for their efforts. But I got to tell you, truthfully, if I heard what Commissioner Alvarez said, I'm actually much more inclined to work with his idea. And what I think I'd like to do, if he's in agreement, all three of us really need to be in agreement. I prefer we be as close to unanimous as we can get on this. I don't want to have I don't want to have open mic night up there for the boards to come up and talk about what they've been working on, because some boards did very innovative things, other boards did some very predictable things, but I think all boards did things fairly well. I would want a recognition session, whether that's the awards banquet session or some other time during the meeting. I'm kind of agnostic about that, but I would want time set aside to really highlight from the stage with appropriate, kind of video or other visual type supplementation, really highlight something that happened at each of the 28 boards.
I love that idea.
I think, this is my opinion, but I think boards see value in the awards for a couple different reasons. I think one, I think it's good for board staff, meaning the executive director, other folks that are hired to work at the board. I think their elected board, their selected board locally likes to see validation that their board is competing well statewide. This is a great way for us to do that. That's what awards do. I think the second thing is when there's monetary awards associated with the recognition, that's some seed money they can use for other innovative things. So if I'm just completely transparent about where I am on this is, I think a kind of a all boards kind of recognition for work done in the pandemic. Commissioner, I might differ with you just slightly on where the money would go, but I would be very open to looking at establishing some sort of program to kind of continue to foster that innovation with the amount of money that we would have set aside for awards. So whether that's skills development funds, honestly, I'm looking at the performance of our pandemic related skills development fund awards, and that seems to be waning. I think we've done a good job of getting those monies out into the marketplace and letting those go to work. But I would sort of reserve the idea of asking staff to look at the amount of money we might have set aside traditionally for 2021 awards and exploring the possibility of setting up some sort of innovation fund for boards to access that, to perhaps take COVID innovations that they found success with during the pandemic, but realizing that they want to keep doing this thing post-pandemic in a non-pandemic sort of way. I hope that makes sense. So a great idea I know about. I know out at Borderplex at El Paso, I was absolutely thrilled to hear Layla talking about them setting up mobile hotspots so
Mhm.
people could come access internet from various points in their region. We think about Borderplex as being El Paso, but there's 7 other counties, and that's a big chunk of Texas where there's just not a lot of people. And there's one county out there where cattle outnumber people 5 to 1. So it's a rural area in a lot of respects. El Paso, of course, is a global world-class kind of city. That's a good thing. They're doing a great job in El Paso, but the board's committed to doing something in all 8 of their counties, including the 7 really rural ones. That's just one idea that they may want to continue post-pandemic. So what I'm suggesting is I'm willing to kind of back off of my idea of having some award categories for the pandemic, do a general recognition, but ask staff to develop for us a plan with about the amount of money we would have used for awards to develop some sort of funding mechanism to continue just various pandemic innovations and how those might continue into the future. So that, based on my reaction to your comments, Commissioner Alvarez, that's where I find myself right now.
I like your idea, Chairman. I
Good,
like
so-
the idea.
So highlighting the work of the boards, that's good from that level, and then an innovative program. I think it falls in line. So.
And I like the idea of the video. I mean, that was my concept was,
Mm.
as the conference is going on, you would have videos going on of what the various boards did. And who knows, we could even do that, in the foyer, just
Well-
kind of highlighting all that good stuff.
So Courtney and Tom, we've traditionally, if I remember right, I've just been to one big annual meeting. There's an awards luncheon time
Mhm.
that's set aside. This is going to sound really corny, but I got 2 kids, so I can make dad jokes if I want to. I would really be in favor of turning that luncheon into more of a pep rally and recognition time for innovations that happened during the pandemic that helped people, so that we can clearly get a spotlight on all the workforce solutions efforts that went into play, including some from TWC, quite frankly.
I agree.
I think we should use video and other visuals. I think we should use music and other things. Pyrotechnics, Tom. To really focus on that. Yeah, it's too early to celebrate, maybe, because I think there's still some pandemic work left to be done. But we've got to get a spotlight put on innovation that our group does. This is critical for the long-term success of the workforce solutions effort, TWC and all the boards and our local partners. And I think rather than just back off of this and say, oh, we were really busy during the pandemic, I think we should highlight those things that were done. And frankly, by then we could perhaps if we find the right solution on the innovation fund, be able to talk about even sort of how that's happening and how that's operating and doing some things like that. Clear as mud. Gentlemen.
I agree with you, Chairman. I like your idea. Joel?
Hi, for the record, I'm Joel Mullins with Workforce Development. I just wanted to ask one question and provide one piece of clarification as well. It sounds like so far you guys have been mainly talking about board awards. We also have the employer awards, which have always been non-monetary. So wanted to throw that out there for you guys to discuss as well. Are you considering not, tabling those as well, or continuing those for this year? And then just one point of clarification, that luncheon that happens at the conference has always been specific to the employer awards. That's an employer awards luncheon, and the board awards ceremony is usually the night before. So just
good point, because I don't
Yeah.
always remember the agenda, Joel.
Yeah.
I in my mind had envisioned that employers would be recognized along with boards. We can do that as we've done it traditionally, or we can do that a new way in light of this just new approach. And this is a 2021 approach. It's kind of a one-off, and we'll be back to a little bit more regular order in 2022. So I hadn't thought of that. Thank you for bringing it up. My intent would be to recognize employers along with the boards. I think they're part of that type of recognition. And so maybe I am talking about a little combination of that, but I do think, I do see strength in highlighting what some
I do
employers
too.
have done, yeah.
And-
Mr. Emerson?
Yeah, I'm trying to think it through from the standpoint of the hybrid model, because I think the same thing implies that was mentioned earlier, what employers have been doing statewide, it's going to be different all over the place. And so if you're starting to try to qualify that, then we have the same concept or thought that we mentioned earlier, that it's unbalanced. And so I think a hybrid approach, when you're highlighting the boards and their work, somewhere in there is probably going to be work with employers at some point. So I don't have I'm not sure just yet if we were, I'm not sure just yet if we were to separate it and hold that specially, if that's something that we want to do, especially if we're talking in light of doing something different.
Well, let me ask Joel a question. Joel, how would we base our awards to employers? What are we going to base it on?
Well, I mean, traditionally, each of the workforce development boards will nominate employers for both the large and small employer of the year. And then judges from around the agency, score those based on the set criteria.
Yeah, same
But
criteria.
considering the boards were limited on what they could do, I think it'd be a challenge.
Let me ask,
Yeah.
Aaron, sorry, let me ask a clarifying question. So that's to pick a overall winner, the judges, right?
Well, yes, based on the scoring, we identify finalists that we then invite to the conference, and there's also an overall winner.
So my position coming into this is we wouldn't really try to pick winners. The pandemic sort of cast, weirdness in the marketplace at a lot of different angles. But what I would be in favor of, which actually is out of character for me, is I would be in favor of having boards nominate their employer, and we would just celebrate what the employers have done based on those nominations without attempting to pick a top end class for large and small employer. And I want to be sure we also highlight employers that continued to work with veterans, continued to work with foster youth, and some of the other things that we've been encouraging. So I guess always in my mind, those employers would get included in this recognition, but I personally had not contemplated selecting an overall winner. So that's a good point.
So that sounds like our local employer of excellence award, which we do have as well. So in addition to the large employer of the year, small employer of the year, and the vet friendly employer of the year, the boards also pick a local employer of excellence. And then we highlight all 28 of those. So there's no judging at all. They submit their local employer and we highlight those.
So my position is we would not have the judging, but we would highlight the employers.
I like that idea.
But we need to be in agreement from here. So.
Yeah, all 28 local excellence award. That sounds like it gets to Chairman, what you were mentioning with nominations. I mean, they come through and we have all 28 of them. So, okay.
And I'm open to that. I like that recommendation. When I was thinking about what you were saying, Joel, I was thinking if we were to acknowledge or maybe an employer, I was thinking of essential workers, how creative some of them were with our boards. But again, I don't want it to reflect that I'm not in favor of a board award. I think it's a great idea, but I was just curious on the criteria. And then would we consider, what they did with boards, the essential workers, the HEBs, folks that had never been recognized before, like food banks, stuff like that. Again, every 28 boards, I'm sure all the 28 boards did really good work, whether it was in childcare, VR services, or just creative thinking. But I like the idea that you brought this up. I think it's a valid one, but I agree with the chairman, just kind of at the same time, acknowledge all the boards and all employers that were a part of 2020.
So does that throw a wrench in the works for the luncheon if we just bring all the recognitions into that luncheon and not focus it on the employers alone?
I would have to defer to Tom on that. I know it definitely would change the run of show just based on my experience of being in those luncheons, but whether
All
we can
things
think
are
that-
possible.
I think it'll work.
Chairman, you could recommend something if you want, instead of having like the chairman meetings in the morning, which are sometimes not, attended.
You better start giving me ideas.
Chairman, certainly we could make recommendations on how we would like the agenda to
The
flow for
worst-
that day, considering it's 1 year.
The words chairman and morning rarely belong together in the same sentence. So,
Pretend it's a Tuesday.
Mr. McCarty.
Good morning, Tom McCarty, External Relations. So in the past, the employer award ceremony, the luncheon that's served there is largely paid for by the registration fees, which excludes the registration fees that TWC employees pay. So that could be the only hiccup there, is if we have to adjust for, any food or beverage, we got to just meet the contractual limits there. So we'd have to work through that a little bit.
All right, let's do this. I think without objection, we're in agreement. We want recognition for boards for innovative things they did during the pandemic. We want innovation. We want recognition rather than innovation, although we'll recognize innovation for employers on the basis of nominations by the boards. We're in agreement that we don't want to select any kind of overall winners. Ergo, there'll be no monetary awards. So I'm hearing no objection. We're in agreement with that. That's actually all the framework you need. So I need you guys to do 3 things for us. You need to tell us what's the best format to get these 2 different recognitions done. I think the audiovisual stuff is easy enough to conquer. I'm talking about the actual physical placement on the agenda for the big annual meeting. The second thing I need you to do is just sort of advise us on logistics on how the combination of live presentations by commissioners versus audiovisual would work. And then this third thing, I don't want to abandon this idea of the innovation fund. So that $800,000 or so that would have been budgeted for awards. Can you, and you can certainly take your time with this one, can you draw up a little concept paper on an innovation fund, what that might look like and how that might work with the dollars that would have typically been done for awards. So if you could bring back the first 2 of those to us more quickly. And then on the innovation fund, I think you have a little more time on that because I think we can roll that out at the appropriate time. This way we can cover, I think, all of what awards have traditionally done. Does that seem workable to everybody?
Chair, I need
I'm in favor of that.
Courtney Arbor, Workforce Division. I just wanted to be clear, there are other funding sources. Adult Ed is also one of the awards that is discussed. So we would be bringing back a plan for innovations for both Adult Ed and workforce boards, I believe is what you all are discussing.
Well, let's take a look at that. I'm wondering about that because I'm really trying to not give out any awards whatsoever. If we're not going to give out some awards, I don't want to give
I
out
agree.
any awards. And
Okay.
if there's something we absolutely need to do, let's talk about it. So when you bring that logistical information back to us, let's be ready to talk through. I think we're saying no awards. If there's an award that has to happen for some reason that we're unaware of at this moment, that'll be a time for you to tell us that we need to reconsider something.
Apologies, Chairman. I was talking about number 3, the innovation funds. The dollar amount you referenced included some for adult education.
You may need to back that out if we're not
Okay.
going to do that. So, got it. Sorry, I wasn't tracking this morning.
And for the record, Joel Mullins, Workforce Development. Then the other point of clarification with AEL is that there are generally AEL awards. So do we want that recognition at the conference to include those grantees?
I'm not opposed to recognizing anybody. I just think we're trying to eliminate giving
Right.
awards at this conference. Gentlemen,
I agree.
thoughts?
I agree, Chairman.
Okay.
And for the record, I agree with the chairman's recommendations for staff to come back with the money and how we're going to lay this out.
It's been laid out.
All right, well, we got unanimous consent to do that. If just put that into the briefing pattern for everything else that's being briefed to us. We'll bring back that up at the next meeting that you're ready to talk about it at. All right, so now we need to move to 2022. So I don't think it's a big surprise. I'm not actually all that psyched about the way we give awards because it seems a little bit stale. What I was going to suggest today is that we talk through this so that staff can understand where we're coming from. And then we would ask staff to come back to us with a more formal kind of paper with something we could actionable, have an actionable motion over at a later commission meeting, but later meaning weeks, not months. And hopefully giving the benefit of staff being able to understand kind of where we're coming from individually on awards. So my thinking would be here, we don't have to agree today. We just need to get our ideas on the table so that staff can sort through where we're in agreement and where we may not be in agreement, so that they can get an action item prepared that we can then take action on. So I wasn't actually thinking that today we would try to nail down exactly what's actionable, just so that staff can think through things. Because I always think of everything like there's this one award that we forgot to talk about. I don't want that to happen. So unless you have a different way you want to do it, I would say, let's go ahead and talk about awards in general 2022. If you came today with a proposal for 2022, I would certainly ask you to lay that out. We may not take action on it today, but that's only because I want to give staff the benefit of hearing from the three of us and understanding where we're coming from and trying to amalgamate that. So we're doing this in open meetings so that we can have a legitimate discussion about it. But I don't feel like we need to come to a conclusion today. And I don't, I'm assuming this conversation is not going to become contentious, but if for some reason it did, I would want us to be able to maybe table that and come back to it. So that's where I was. If there's objection to that, let me know, but I really think we will benefit ourselves, and I think staff will certainly appreciate us just sort of being able to talk openly and react to each other's ideas, concepts, and ideas.
So Chairman, if I may add, I just want for clarification purposes, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would ask that our 2022 awards, the ones based on data, should be deferred to a work session in June. If I'm hearing the chairman right, maybe be best to present this on a white paper from each of the best to present white papers from each of the 2022 awards. Not sure if we should move on this today, as you referenced earlier, but again, maybe if we could just take this back up in June after a work session.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. If there's anything that we want to put on record prior to that, then let's take the opportunity to do that as well, so the staff has an idea, and then we'll come back in June as well.
Perfect.
June's like 3 weeks away. So
Yeah.
we're not really kicking the can that far.
No.
So time's moving.
I'm okay with that, Chairman.
I don't object to that. I would say this. It is true today. It will be even more true in June. I would like to see us move away from application-based awards and move more toward performance-based awards. I do think that there are some awards that lend themselves well to applications, but I would even want those application-based awards to be based on performance-related items. I want to be sure that we're recognizing boards and employers, AEL, the whole range of things, that we're really recognizing some measurable performance. It may or may not be a performance measure. Measurable performance is not the same thing as a performance measure. And so I do think it's probably a good idea to set those aside until June. We're having a conversation on or about June 9th with Adam on board performance measures, and that may inform our discussion a little bit with regard to that. And so, rather than maybe task staff to come up with something based on today's discussion, I would not be opposed to deferring this conversation until June. But I will come back in June with the same messaging, which is we got to get away from application-based awards and get on to more performance-based awards. The other thing you'll hear from me in June, and I was going to talk about today, so I'm going to talk about it just a little bit, only briefly, so we can preview June. The lack of conformity in dollar amounts for awards, it concerns me a little bit. That means some awards are going to get reduced and some awards are going to get raised in terms of dollar amounts, at least from my perspective. And I want to be prepared to talk about that in June as well. I want to see, I would like to see a lot more conformity in the awards. And I would like to see a kind of perhaps even a scale for those. I'm not a real big fan of, rigidity and things, but here I want it predictable for if you win, first prize, it's this amount of money and it's that way across all awards. If you win second prize, it's this. If you win third prize, it's this. And so we'll be talking about that. I think that's worthy of debate. Each commissioner certainly has some ideas about that. And there may be some reasons why I'm not right about that, but we need to probably thoroughly talk about that. And that will come back up in June, at least from my perspective.
I'm okay with it.
Mine would be, I'd probably ask if you guys had talked to the boards. And so I know you guys, regular meetings, getting input from those individuals would be good, because I think that allows us to put forward awards that make sense. So.
All right. So 2021, you're going to bring back 3 deliverables on some reasonable time frame. 2022, we'll reconvene another work session in June to discuss this. Joel, what did we miss? What do we need to add today?
I think that covers it.
Think you got what you need? I mean, we can come up with some other stuff. If you want. Give us long enough. We'll come up with all kinds of stuff. We're good. Thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
All right,
Thank you
guys.
for that.
Thank you very, very much. This is a big deal to me. These awards are important, and I've been a little concerned about perhaps they've gotten stale, and it seems like there's on your part a real interest in livening them up, and I think you're hearing from the commissioners today that we're interested in doing that with you. We're gonna probably have more discussion in June. I suspect we're not going to be 100% unanimous on all this, and those kinds of discussions are why we get even better ideas when we can start combining our ideas. We can only do that in an open meeting like this one. And so I will definitely convene a working group, or whatever we call this, a working meeting to do that. Anything else we need to talk about here today?
Good discussion, Chairman.
Good here.
All right, we do need to adjourn.
Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
I second the motion.
Been moved second to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good recommendations.